me. It is my time. Wait.
What's up, fellow move speed enjoyers? It's Teak, and as promised, we're going to be diving into Trial of the Sekhemas, also known as Sanctum. I killed Zarok 100 times for this project and split it into two different sets of 50, one with no relic investment and one with relic investment to increase the amount of unique relics we get at the end of the trial. To save you some time, I'll give you a quick summary of what I learned. If you're serious about Sanctum, invest in good relics. They increase your profit by a whole lot. Keys are a good way to add a bit of income to runs, but don't prioritize getting keys until after you have all your boons. Having a fast movement build is definitely essential to farming Trial of the Sekhemas. Once again, we're playing a slot machine, but this one has much better odds to provide consistent income compared to something like Expedition. Before we jump into the data, I want to go over the trials as well as outline the current meta and how I ran my trials. As you probably know, trials are one half of the mechanics that allow you to ascend your character. It's essentially similar to a roguelike where you start on a fresh slate and move through the generated rooms, gaining buffs and debuffs that either help or hinder your runs. On top of that, you can add relics to your runs to gain bonuses based on the mods on the relic. At the end of each floor is a boss, and the last boss, Zarok, can drop unique relics that add difficulty in exchange for rewards in your next Sanctum runs. Some of these relics sell for quite a bit, so people farm these runs in search of these expensive relics. The two relics we're going to be focusing on today are the Desperate Alliance, which has an estimated drop rate of around 15% and currently sells for about 3 divines. When the Desperate Alliance is added to your relic setup, it causes a rock to drop an Against the Darkness jewel, which is a radius jewel that transforms passives in the radius to grant additional modifiers. The second of the two expensive relics is the Last Flame, which has an estimated drop rate of around 0.5%. It causes a rock to drop Temporalis and is currently selling for around 290 divines for the relic. The last 4 relics are currently not worth much of anything. We have the Burden of Leadership, which results in a Sekhemas Resolve. These have 3 variants, each allowing a certain type of jewel to be socketed in it. We have the Changing Seasons, which results in a Sandstorm Visage, Peacemaker's Drought, which results in an additional Baria, and lastly, the Remembered Tales, which drops Blessed Bonds. Now we'll quickly go over the relic setups. There's a few different relic setups that people use for their runs, but I'm going to go over the most prevalent one, which is stacking relic drop quantity and trying to get as much relics as you can out of each run. Keep in mind this also increases the non-unique relics you get, which can also bring in quite a bit of profit itself. And don't forget, these can be converted 3-to-1 at the reforging bench for even more chances at good rolls. Zarok has one guaranteed relic that he drops, and by stacking over 100% quantity of relics dropped by monsters, he can drop multiple. So the common strategy is to stack 120% or higher of relic quantity while trying to encounter the boon, which also increases the effect of your non-unique relics by 30%. This will effectively boost your relic quantity to over 150%, meaning you're guaranteed at least 1 extra relic with a good chance at a third. In the first set of runs, I did 50 with no relic quantity to get a baseline value, and in the second set of 50, I swapped out my relics, so I had at least 120%, which was further buffed by 30% more each run to get an idea of just how much profit potential we can get by swapping relics. This is how I set up my relics. In the blue squares, I'm running 3x1 Amphora relics with 3 additional merchant choices as well as honor resistance. For higher investment, you can run something like +3 merchant choices and reduce merchant costs. And for a lower investment setup, you could run, say, like a +2 merchant choices instead. You definitely save a little bit by dropping that 1 additional merchant choice. Having the 3 additional merchant choices per Amphora relic is going to increase your odds at getting the 30% increased effect of non-unique relics boon, which is super important for increasing our unique relic income. In the purple squares, I'm running 2x1 earn relics with defense and quantity of relics dropped by monsters. And in the orange squares, I'm running 1x2 seal relics that also have defense and quantity of relics dropped by monsters. So I'm using a Queen of the Forest, so stacking defense is in turn giving me movement speed. If you're not running something like Queen of the Forest, the better option is taking just movement speed on those relics instead of defense. The goal here is to have at least 100% increased total quantity of relics dropped by monsters combined. As I mentioned before, this will guarantee you have at least 2 drops with an additional chance to have a third. So for increased profits, make sure you're prioritizing getting this number as high as you can. The second part of the strategy I need to emphasize is trying to get the increased effect of non-unique relic boons. So the way I run my Sanctum floors is basically broken down into 3 parts. On floor 1 and 2, my main priority is to try to get as much sacred water as I possibly can and get as many merchants as I possibly can. On floor 3, I'm mainly trying to get merchants to finish off the rest of my boons and then grabbing keys along the way. And on floor 4, I'm prioritizing gold and silver keys just in case we get chests that require them, like the Time Lost and the Spectrum caches. The priority for minor boons for merchants is kind of flexible, but it can be broken down into a basic priority list, so I'll go over that list now. So in our top priority slot, we want 30% increased effect of non-unique relics. This is definitely the one that we want every single run. We also would like to come across the 50% reduced merchant prices just so we can get more boons along our run, as well as 50% more sacred water found, and sacred water found on this floor is doubled. Now the doubling, you only want to buy if there's enough of the floor left to justify grabbing the doubling. Our second priority for boons is going to be all the speed increasing stuff. So movement speed, more defenses if you're using Queen of the Forest, as well as you and your minions deal 50% more damage and monsters have 30% less HP. You should also try to pick up the boons that let you see an additional room ahead on the map. This will help you optimize your room navigation. And for the third priority, if you have a lot of sacred water, is buying up any of the non-temporary boons. So this will help increase the odds of getting what you're looking for by removing all the others from the pool. So make sure you're picking up everything when you can afford it. As far as major boons go, the only ones that really matter are Sacred Water doubling, All-Seeing Eye to fully reveal the trial map, and Dakar's Necklace, which makes you unable to receive any more minor afflictions. That means you could safely travel through whatever the room downside may be in order to get your vendors and keys. Now that we've gone over everything, we're going to hop into the spreadsheet and break down the runs. As always with my sheets, you can enter the whatever the current values of divine and stuff like that here are in the currency conversion area. Anything marked in orange can be swapped by you to reflect the current prices if you want to take a look at that. We have our investment cost up here. In the second set, we have our investment cost plus our relics. And then if we scroll down, we have the revenue of what we had throughout each run. And you can check the tabs at the bottom. This will give you an idea of each of those sets. I broke it down into sets of 5, so you can see like here we had a Desperate Alliance, Peacemaker Drought, Changing Seasons, another Desperate Alliance, and a Remembered Tales. And that is consistent with set 2 too. You can see all of the stuff that I got here. I also included full screenshots at the bottom, and that pretty much does it for the individual sheets. Now our comparison sheet, we'll dive into a little bit of the difference between our 2 sets of runs. And I also added a flame excluded section just in case you wanted to see the values without that lucky drop. So on our no relic investment run, our low budget run, we ended up with almost 47 divines worth of revenue, so 46.5 divines worth of profit. So per Baria, we're getting about 0.93 divines per Baria run. Now if we jump over here to our invested runs, you can see even though we're spending 20 divines to get our relics set up, we're also making back, like let's talk about the one without the flame. We're making back 120 divines anyway. So our total profit is almost 100 divines in those 50 runs. So as you can see, clearly we're getting double the value from the, actually it's almost triple the value if you take out the investment cost, because you're only going to have to pay that one time. It's not like an ongoing thing, right? You're investing once. Every run you do after that will after you pay off that initial 20 divines, every run you do is pure profit, minus the Baria cost, which is like insignificant anyway. If we scroll further down here, we can see our total unique relics. So in the first set, I didn't have any bonus, which means we only got 50 unique relics. In the second set, I ended up with 1.56%, which ended up getting us actually, ironically, exactly 2.56. So we had our guaranteed 2 and then a 56% chance to get another one. And you can see the rates are pretty consistent across the board here. Minus maybe Remembered Tales is quite a bit higher, and also Burden of Leadership is quite a bit lower, but there's going to be some fluctuation in that unless I run a ton more to get a bigger sample size worth of data. Further down, you can see our jewel breakdowns. So how many jewels we got from each run. Our relics don't affect those. That's just kind of RNG, and I just track that for my own personal use. So this is wrong. This should be 5. But basically, I had 5 Grand Spectrum over here and 4 over here. We had 11 total time loss caches on our first set and 10 on the second. But somehow I ended up with more. I think I just got lucky and got 3 or 4 more often. And then our other miscellaneous currency, which was the stuff in this section over here, as well as the relics. You can see that broken down over here. So yeah, as you can see, way better to invest in relics. Definitely 100% invest in relics. And that pretty much does it for the sheets. The link will be in the description. So as you can see, there's a ton of profit potential here. And even when you're not getting super lucky, you're still able to get a consistent amount of income. I definitely recommend investing in relics as they increase your potential profit by a huge margin. And that's pretty much all I have to go over for this video. If you have any suggestions on what I should do in the future, please leave it in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I appreciate you.